Hi, welcome to the Franchising Matters series brought to you by Reshift Media. I'm Jen McDonald. I'm VP of Content and Social Media at Reshift. And today I am joined by Rebecca Cagsey. She is our Manager of Social Media Advertising, and Alex Few, and she is our Content Producer. So at Reshift, we recently released a report on the 2025 trends in digital marketing for franchises. We're going to put the link in the description so you can download that for free. But one of those trends that we talked about in the report was video, and that's what we want to talk about today. As you know, video has been a must-have marketing tool probably since TikTok exploded a lot during the pandemic in the last couple of years. But it seems to have really taken off in terms of it needs to be part of your mix. So Rebecca, I'd like you to speak on the advertising part of it, and Alex, you could speak to the organic social media part of it. But could you tell us why franchise brands should be investing even more in video in 2025? Alex, let's kick things off with you.
Yeah. So I thought I'd share a really important stat to kind of start things off, which is that video accounts for more than 82% of all online traffic. So video is everywhere, and it's certainly something that most franchise systems don't want to pass up on, in my opinion. And that's why we kind of hope at the end of this video, you'll have some stepping stones to help you launch or enhance your video marketing plan.
Yeah, and Rebecca, what about ads?
So on the ad side of things, so what we're seeing is actually 91% of businesses used video as like a part of their marketing strategy for 2024, with marketers actually considering YouTube to be the most effective video platform, followed by Facebook and then Instagram. Whereas like TikTok is actually being viewed as less effective, but we believe this is because brands are often struggling to understand how to effectively TikTokify their content for this audience.
Yeah, it's surprising. YouTube over even Meta and TikTok. That's not really what we're seeing, but I guess you're probably right. It's probably just harder for some brands to jump on TikTok because it's a little bit more intimidating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And what about the organic side, Alex?
Yeah, I think it's important to add that videos can be more than just showcasing a product or service. It's actually been found to be really helpful with search engine optimization, that we found that at generating first page search rankings compared to other SEO tactics. Another key point that I thought I'd throw out is that a lot of customers, so around 82%, actually made a purchase after watching a video. So there's certainly a number of reasons why franchise systems, why franchise systems would actually just want to go all in on video and make it part of their marketing strategy. It's also been a way that people kind of consume social media and online content, but it's definitely not a one-size-all-fits approach. It's important to consider where you're posting. So your captions, your hashtags, your music, even video length, depending on what platform you're posting on. It's really important to keep those factors in mind.
Yeah, we definitely use different hashtags on Instagram than we do on TikTok. On TikTok, we tend to be like much quicker in our cuts. So it is a little bit different depending on where you're going. So speaking of different platforms, we know that, video is very important, but we also know where we put that video is very important as well. And it seems like the big buzzword for 2025 is diversification. So why is it important for franchise systems to really diversify where they're posting these videos to, both ads or organic? Maybe we'll start with organic, Alex.
Yeah, I think we can all likely remember the TikTok ban that happened earlier this year. It affected influencers, small business owners, brands in the US, but it did have a ripple effect elsewhere. And although that ban didn't last very long, it's actually extended to April 2025, the last time I checked. It really left us with such a key, important message and lesson, which is that platform diversification is so important. And that just means extending your reach and posting on multiple platforms.
Yeah, and I mean, we really saw it, Rebecca, on the ad side of, when there was a threat that TikTok would be taken away as one of our big channels for marketing, that was huge for us. So on the ad side, what are you thinking?
Yeah, as like a social marketer, I was very scared, but like it was a great learning lesson, because honestly, expanding your social marketing to other platforms like YouTube, Meta, and even LinkedIn, with YouTube actually being the most effective video channel on social, as they've definitely been leaning more into like short form content since 2020. But fast forward to 2025, as of 2025, there are actually over 2 billion active users on YouTube Shorts with over 70 billion daily views. Now, if we compare this to TikTok, as of 2025, TikTok had only 1.6 billion monthly active users with an average daily view of over 1 billion. Now, This actually didn't completely surprise me that YouTube outperforms TikToks in terms of like video views and like active users, as it already had like a very loyal audience, and it's just been around for so long. But it was just really up to like the YouTube creators to kind of adapt their content to more short form.
Yeah, and I feel like, TikTok gets all the news and all the buzz, but YouTube, like you said, has been around, and it's just so widely used in everyone's life. It's just kind of integrated into their lives in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. And then like I know we have some like B2B listeners, but if you're interested in like using like LinkedIn, they've definitely been leaning more into like short form vertical content. So this is like now front and center on the app, and it's might not be a place where you're like endlessly scrolling for like entertainment and humor, but it might be great for like those bite-sized content full of career advice and like industry news. So I'm kind of excited to see how like LinkedIn uses, like creators use more LinkedIn video. Now, in terms of like other platforms like Reddit and Pinterest, we have tested this for like using video ads on these platforms. However, it wasn't like the most effective for us. But again, this is something that like your brand should be testing if it works for you guys.
Yeah, I think just testing is really big here. The biggest takeaway about platform diversification is to not put all your eggs in one basket, because we do not know the future of any platform, and TikTok really showed us that. And there was this idea in the past that brands should focus on one or two platforms and kind of just go all in with their content. And I personally think that was because, you want to go where your audience is. But fast forward to today, your audience can be literally everywhere. So diversifying where you're posting can be extremely important.
Yeah, it's definitely a more fragmented landscape, I think. Like everyone is using a bunch of different apps and we're on all different kinds of social media, and that's where your audience is. So like as a brand, you also have to kind of be everywhere at once. So I think it's good to diversify, your different platforms. What about diversifying your different types of video? What kinds of videos should franchise systems be producing in 2025? Let's start with Rebecca for ads.
Yeah, so on like the social ad side of things, diversifying your creative across platforms is just so important. And it's really not just taking that same shot and putting it in different formats like carousels or reels or even like stories, but like actually diversifying through its messaging. And this is like hitting different audiences and like using different storytelling and creative elements. So these are really important to consider, as they do tend to influence how people respond to the ad. So the more video concepts and variations you kind of like give the algorithm, the better it will be at like finding that like different type of audience who will respond to each one. So
what are some of I know we have a bunch of different types that we're trying, but what are some of the ones in early 2025, some of the concepts that you think are working really well right now?
Great question. Yeah. So like some of the different types of content that we've been seeing is like those like user generated content like UGC, or like influencer based content, testimonials before and after, or like that like responding to like a TikTok comment where it appears like right above your shoulder. Well, each video type tends to resonate well with different like each video
different audience.
Yeah, exactly. Like every person's going to respond to the video differently depending on like that video type. But it's also like important to highlight like the different pain points that might resonate with different audiences, so they can like easily connect with your brand. So like, for example, if you're like a meal kit company, who you might have like different types of audience, like someone who's going to the gym, they might want to see videos about like how healthy the video is, how healthy the food is. Yeah. Yeah. But if you're like a busy mom, they might actually respond better with like the time and convenience part of the ad. So really just like hitting different types of messaging depending on like your audience type.
Yeah, we always kind of say like you have to feed the beast, and the beast is the algorithm. So as many different kinds of formats, like you said, reels versus stories versus, in-feed video, but also as many different kinds of stories that you can tell and messages that you can tell. The algorithm has gotten really, really good at finding the right video to put in front of the right person. So if you give it as much as you can, you'll get better results for sure.
Exactly. And that's just not like hitting like the messaging component of it. That's just like using like different like elements like text overlays or stickers and fonts that are really native to the social platform, which might actually do better than like those like highly produced like TV quality ads some people just don't want to be advertised to. So making it like traditional ad versus like an authentic video ad that like would come across your feed, like really differs between person to person. And sorry. Honestly, some of the best performing ads I've seen were really just shot on an iPhone and edited straight on the platform.
Yeah, and Alex, I know on the organic side and the social side, but also the organic side, we've definitely had conversations with brands where we've tried to tell them, ugly ads or lo-fi ads might actually, or posts might actually work better than, giving us your TV commercials to post on Instagram.
Exactly. And you wouldn't necessarily expect that either, but I think it's just authenticity is so important with ads, organic content. People are really looking for that. And it's often debated whether brands actually always need to produce high quality videos all the time organically and on ads. Honestly, we suggest just trying it all out. We often do a mix, but low production value really works well organically, especially on Instagram stories and reels. But with all of that being said, it's understandable that brands do want to kind of hold on to their content and produce high quality content. But yeah, just honestly on social, those organic shot on an iPhone ads really add to the authenticity and make it more memorable as well, I think.
Yeah, and speaking of brands wanting to be protective of their brand, I know, Rebecca, you and I have dealt with a lot of influencers and influencer advertising, and I think there's always kind of some tension between how much the brands want to step in on that and how much we should just kind of let the influencers do their thing.
Yeah, honestly, this is just like a PSA for brands working with influencers. I would say like loosen up your brand restrictions and guidelines and let them tell a story about your brand. Give the influencers more creative reign on how the video should be produced. You'll be surprised on like the different audience they'll bring, and you'll see how well it works. And then after, just whitelist them, and then you can use them in your ad campaigns. Benefit for both.
And just to add one thing about lo-fi content is that you don't need a massive budget, which is a major plus. Just pull out your iPhone and create like founders videos, behind the scenes footage. It can be really inexpensive, and it can apply to all franchise systems, really.
Yeah, honestly, Alex, there's actually one of our best performing videos for one of our clients is actually them cheering in front of the storefront. And it might have even been like their family member who had taken the video of all the staff cheering in front, and it was our top performing video ad for a month.
I think it was like a grand opening or something that they were doing, but like really like built excitement. They were so excited to be open. They were so excited to be in the community, and the audience really responded to that for a long time.
Yeah, I think it was just like, it was so authentic and it was so in the moment that you can't help but gravitate towards the ad. Now, with that being said, if you're running a campaign, make sure you just don't pile all your eggs in that one video ad. Like, if you're running a campaign, have at least 6 to 8 ads within your ad set, with like 2 to 3 of them just being videos. And that should work for both stories, reels, and in feed, just to have like a good mix. Now, we have tested the vertical placement against in feed and have noticed that the vertical placement tends to bring a younger audience. However, sometimes we do find that it will bring more of like top of the funnel campaigns where it's like generating education and awareness, with not necessarily conversion. So this is something that you should be testing depending on like your campaign objective.
And before we move on, I really want to encourage franchise systems to really just step out, try different things. Don't be afraid to go outside of your brand's comfort zone. If there's a trend that you think you can jump in on and that your audience would be receptive to, I say go for it. Honestly, we've found that even though it's important to have brand consistency because that can boost brand recognition, it's really about being fun and lighthearted as well with your videos. If you think there's a video trend that you can go, I recommend it. And if you're looking for some inspiration, TikTok actually has a center on their site that is called Trends, and you can find what's trending in your region. So from hashtags to songs to creators to various video types. So if you're looking for some inspiration, I say start there as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. And there's so many trends that brands can just take their own spin on, from like adding like a POV to that hilarious trend where like you're accidentally flipping the camera onto yourself after like a self-serving opinion. It's funny.
Yeah, that's funny.
I love that one.
Yeah. And that's actually lasting a long time too, I found on social. So definitely add some humor to your content.
Yeah, I feel like last year it was demure was the trend that we just couldn't give up, and this year it's the flipping the camera. So I love that so far. Okay, so we have these franchise systems and we told them, okay, do a lot of video. How do they know that these videos are working? How do they know, okay, which one actually won and this one didn't do so well? What video metrics are you focused on and you're looking at the end of the month when you're doing reporting to see, okay, this one works, or even when you're doing ads and you're testing and looking at them like every other day to see which ones you're keeping on versus which ones you're turning off. On the ad side, let's start with Rebecca. What are the metrics that you're really focused on here?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different metrics that I would start with, like hook rate. So this is just essentially taking 3 seconds of your videos views divided by the amount of video views, which is just speaking on how like effective your ad is from capturing your audience's attention within those first few seconds. Now, getting a really good hook is the important part, but having a variety of hooks is where you kind of need to measure. So some examples that I seem to be working well are like before and after within just 1 week, or replying to a TikTok comment, or here's why this product just went viral. And then my personal favorite is I was 8 years old when I learned. So after you have a variety of different hooks for each of your videos, I would aim for a hook rate of at least 30%. Now, if it exceeds this, that means you have a really great hook.
Yeah, and I think another, that's a really good one. Hook rates are good. Any other metrics? Like I know we look at CTR just to see, how many people are clicking through that.
Yeah, click-through rate is also really good. It helps measure if your messaging is resonating well with your target audience. So I would aim for above 1%. But most importantly, look at the videos that the social platform are putting the most ad spend behind. That's typically an indicator of a good performer because the algorithm will always put its budget behind like the winning ads versus like the losing ads. And of course, you should be measuring every creative against your brand's own KPIs. And if this is like a sales campaign, that likely includes like cost per action or even like ROAS.
Yeah, any campaign that you launch, you should know, like depending on the objective, this is what I want it to do, and then evaluate your videos from that as well. What about on our organic, Alex?
Yeah, just looking at Instagram, TikTok, YouTube on the organic side, definitely views. So you want to see how long people are watching, how many of your followers are watching versus your non-followers, and engagement rates. And it's important to note that there are free analytics sections on each platform. So I really encourage you to explore it. You can view it for free. On Instagram, for example, when you switch to a professional account, if you're on a personal, which we recommend, it's really important so that you can see those key stats as well. So I really recommend switching to a professional account if you're a franchise system.
Yeah, and I think if you're a brand, a professional account also gives you not only analytics, but it helps you with search. It gives you a lot more in terms of how you categorize your Instagram handle. So yeah, it's very important to be on the professional side of the handle. So I know that there's a lot of specs and technical aspects when we're creating videos, and they do seem to change all the time. So when franchise systems are creating these videos, what do they need to be mindful of in terms of just like the technical aspects of things?
Yeah, I can start with that because there are two really big elements here that I really want to highlight, which is music and copyright. So on organic, when you're set to a business account and not personal, you're going to have that copyright-free music library on Meta and TikTok, for example. And it's important to note that these libraries can kind of be limited. They might not have a trending sound or a popular song that you found as you're scrolling. But our agency's personal belief is to always err on the side of caution and stick to those copyright-free sounds because it's honestly not worth the copyright claim or the lawsuit that could potentially be coming your way if you use other audios. And
and you might see some brands, you might see some of your competition like using a Taylor Swift song, and you might be tempted, but we just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah. And when you're picking the music, while we're speaking about it, it's important to note that some audios might not exist on Meta versus TikTok. So always be mindful of what music you're adding and what platform you're posting that video content on, because you wouldn't want to use something from TikTok that you're adding to Facebook and it just doesn't work, or Instagram.
Yeah. What about the ad side, Rebecca?
Actually, because audio is so important, I'm going to continue talking about that. But on the ad side, so Meta is constantly leaning towards what they call like advantage plus enhancements, giving advertisers less control over the creative and letting the algorithm add optimizations for you. So one of the enhancements that is defaulted on is music. So these are songs that they will actually choose for you. Now, our team doesn't like this defaulted on because we find that the songs usually don't align with brand guidelines. So I'd be very mindful of this and switch it off if you want more control.
Yeah, these advantage plus authorizations are becoming the bane of our existence. So just, you have to make sure that the ad that you want to put out is what's being put out and that Meta isn't adding a bunch of stuff that you don't really want. And then what about organic on that sort of thing, Alex?
Yeah, in terms of the videos themselves, definitely want to upload each video directly to each platform without watermarks. So for example, if you have a TikTok and you want to post it on Reels, you're going to have that TikTok watermark kind of popping around your video. And according to the head of Instagram, actually, they said that videos with a watermark will decrease your reach. So it's really important to be mindful of that. And speaking of TikTok, since we're talking about it, TikTok first, there's this idea of TikTok first content. But honestly, all that really means is just making sure that when you're posting to a platform, either TikTok, Instagram, that it actually looks like you created the video on the app. So it's important to make it look native to the platform you're posting on. You can post different fonts, platform-specific fonts, stickers, text to the video itself, and that can really help out.
Yeah, and then I know specifically for TikTok, but really for Reels, they've really changed what they call the safe zones. So can you talk a little bit about that, Rebecca?
Yeah, so I know we've talked about a lot about like diversifying across platforms, and so being very mindful of each platform's safe zones is so important. And so when editing any vertical videos for social, just know that there's no cookie cutter video for each placement, especially between like TikTok and Meta stories or Reels. The safe zones are like quite different. So be mindful of like the text placement. Placing it too low might get cut off by like the caption or the on-screen text, while the sides can cover any text that can be too long. And this goes for both social ads and organic. So doing slight variations of the videos provides a better user experience and will be more engaging.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because you don't want that important message that you're adding to a video covered by your caption or the like button on the side. And there are some free tools that I've personally used to kind of test out the content just by searching up Instagram ad mockup tools. You can really find a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last question. I think just really quickly, I know things change with the platforms all the time. Has any like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, have they introduced anything recently, specifically on video, that you think brands should be aware of in 2025? Alex, let's start with you.
Yeah, I really want to highlight video length because that's been a major change. Historically, shorter videos have often been better, but attention spans have definitely decreased recently. So it's definitely a good idea to experiment with different lengths and see what your specific audience resonates with. And so while keeping videos under a minute is usually great, depending on the platform and the content you're sharing, long form videos are gaining a lot of popularity. In fact, last fall, actually, YouTube extended YouTube Shorts from 1 minute to 3 minutes. Instagram also did the same. They had Reels from 90 seconds to 3 minutes. And TikTok is actually continuing to extend its video length. Right now, you can upload 60-minute long videos, which is not going to work for everyone. But the underlining message here is that these short form video platforms are expanding their video length options. But regardless of how you shoot your videos or how long they are, you really want to hook a user in when they're watching. And we found that's typically within the first 3 seconds. And so on organic side, at least, we find that quick cut. So when you're editing it, kind of making those really quick cuts, especially at the beginning, can really hook someone in. And one idea to start with, you can try out something that will immediately grab someone's attention. So like something funny, for example, or have it edited in a way that will stop the thumb from scrolling away, essentially. And that's why those fast-paced edits, especially in the beginning with those quick frame changes at the jump, is recommended.
Yeah. I love those quick cuts. They do really make the video more engaging. But just continuing off of like the video length, because just adding a call to action on any type of video advertising is so important, and having these varied video lengths is actually important of where you're actually placing the call to action, where it should be. So depending on the length of your video, anything between like 5 to 60 minutes, we found that adding the call to action at the start of the video is actually the most effective. Whereas anything over 60 minutes, having the call to action at the end is more effective. And of course, for our short form video content, anything less than 5 minutes, it should be added at the end as well. Again, this is something that like your team should be testing.
Yeah. And in terms of platforms, it seems to me that Instagram right now is the one that's testing a lot of different things, especially on the organic side, Alex. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's been very exciting to navigate, definitely. So Instagram actually released something called trial reels, which is a feature that allows you to test out a reel by sharing it with accounts that don't follow you, which is very interesting. And the benefit about this tool I've found is that it won't be posted on your feed. So really you can get feedback, see what's working with people that aren't following you, and then you can decide if you want to post it. If it doesn't really work well, you can just kind of push it away. You don't have to post it to your audience.
Yeah, and they do a pretty good job of when you post a trial reel, after like usually about 12 hours, you can go in and it'll tell you like, okay, this is doing really well. It's gotten more likes and more reactions and more watches than your last few videos. You should post it to your regular feed. Or if it's not doing well, it'll be like, maybe hold up on this one. Exactly. So it really lets you, I guess, trial it. And also, it's a really good way to test your video on people who aren't following you. So, if you're someone who, wants to post multiple times a day, but you don't want to like really exhaust your audience, it's a really nice way to kind of get your videos out there.
Definitely. It's always great to see how they're going to respond before posting.
Yeah.
And since we're speaking about Instagram really quickly, they have an Instagram Edits app, which is a new video creation app. And this kind of came out when CapCut and TikTok were kind of going down because they're owned by the same company. So Instagram claims that this powerful editing capabilities have creative tools and actionable insights all in one place. And then another feature, since we're also talking about Instagram is really hitting it off with different types of features.
So much.
Something you wouldn't expect, I think, from Instagram is that you can post music on image posts, not just video. And the head of Instagram says that Reels tend to be more engaging because they have moving visuals and audio. And so that's why adding music to image posts can actually add to the storytelling. And essentially, they're trying to make static look like video. And we found, so even just posting carousel images on TikTok even are doing well. So definitely try it out, I think, on Instagram, on TikTok, adding some music to make it more appealing to your audience. But to sum things up, I really think the idea is to try different things, even if it's content that strays from your usual branding. Try different video lengths to see what gets more engagement. And lastly, branch out to more platforms if you're not already, because you may be surprised to see just how well received your content is there.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Guys, we went through so much information on video. Thank you so much for joining me, both of you. And as I mentioned, we recently at Reshift Media released a report on the 2025 digital trends that franchises need to know this year. So we're going to put that link in the description and you can get a free download. Thanks for joining me, girls. Bye.
Bye.